When we started this project, I dove into looking up things about a 10K because I really didn't know what it was, and I found a little factoid. Last year, the largest 10K that was filed was 2,800 pages long, which is the same amount as the Affordable Care Act and Dodd-Frank legislation. So they're massive documents. So the 10K is a document on steroids. It's got everything from your history, financial segments, your products and services, your competitors' products and services, where you ship your products and services from, your assets. And so going through this on an annual basis is a very lengthy process that an associate or a securities lawyer goes through. What happens is you put a checklist, the regulations themselves, and in this case, Facebook's long filing next to each other, spend about 6 to 8 hours going one by one, if it applies, seeking in the regulation how it applies. At that point, you then will, if it's good, mark where it's at. If it's not, elevate it to a senior attorney. That senior attorney might reach out to the client to get that information, and then it goes back to square one. Now, this process is extremely manual. And it kind of reminded me of an elementary reading comprehension test where you read a lot of text, and then you mark true or false, and if you're not sure, you go back and double check. And there's a good reason that in normal systems such as TurboTax or otherwise doesn't read your autobiography to determine whether at some point you purchased a house within the last 5 years, and then therefore the tax credit will apply. So what we did, and we're really excited to share with you, is a client-facing system called MegaCheck, which is divided into 3 parts with financial services, your business basics, and your business narrative section, taking over 3,000 words of regulation and combining it down and distilling it into 20 simple questions. If applicable, then you will continue to go through, but if not, then it takes even what could be pages of checklist material and expedites that with the client's own individual knowledge, reducing the process flow from going back and forth between attorney and client and giving information that is needed. But it wasn't an easy process to develop this.
So our journey began with many unknowns. What was a 10K form? Wow, these regulations are so complex, not to mention, how does it all relate together? So we began our process by mapping out Perkins Coie's current process. We've discovered some places where we can make improvements, so we decided to map out all of Part 1. Upon doing that, we realized that our approach was much too big in scope, so we narrowed it down to items 101A, B, and C, and just mapped out those separately. Upon doing that, we still were having some trouble, so we made a mega flow, which combined all of items 101A, B, and C, which is on the screen now. That kind of gave the complexity of the scope of the project after we had narrowed it down. So then the next question was, so what background do we have in securities law? This project was difficult at the beginning because we had no background knowledge in SEC compliance and securities law. We had no coursework experience, no practical application, and we also had never seen nor heard of a 10K form. So upon looking at the statutes, it was like sitting in contracts on the very first day. The blank stares said it all. What is a registrant? What does material mean? We had so much to learn in so little time. So due to the complexity of our topic matter, we had to narrow the scope of our project several times. We also used a lot of the practical law application on Westlaw in conjunction with the statutes to build our questions and the backbone for our Neota app. We also got a little bit about Edgar in there as well. So what we learned boiled down into 3 points. We have basic security laws knowledge. We also have practical and technical experience with Neota Logic, and we also learned many variable project management skills throughout this project.
So in making the app client-facing, we essentially had 2 obstacles. One, it had to be usable by people who weren't necessarily familiar with securities laws, and that information had to be presented in an approachable, intuitive fashion. So this is the 3rd page of the app. The user inputs their business name, year the company was founded, and form of organization. And to give it a personal touch, that information is carried throughout the app. So in the 3 sections that we resolved to do, there were 34 disclosures, and we broke down the regulations into simpler questions, and in the end we generated 96 question variables spread across 26 pages. But fear not, most of them are in the form of follow-up questions, which only display when previous answers render them relevant. And so This next slide is going to be a decision tree. It is but one of 30, and it's not up here because it's particularly complex, although it is an honorable mention. Rather, it's unique in that this question allowed us to solve 5 disclosures simultaneously. So, and then 3 Q flows drive the entire app, and the division of 3 units mirrors both the 10K forms we modeled this app after, as well as the underlying regulations. So it was just a natural fit. It all culminates in this report, which tells the user which disclosures they have not met, and it also will display a raw transcript so the user can see every question that they answered and how they answered it. And so reducing time was a North Star of this project. And we think by making it client-facing, we reduce the number of hands that are involved, and by making an app, it was transparent and approachable, and we think we made the process more efficient and added real value to the legal system. So where do we go from here? Completing the 10K form is, of course, a natural choice, but these same disclosures are relevant and necessary to other SEC forms, such as the 10Q, which is just a quarterly variant of the 10K, or the S1. So this app, we believe, has a bright future ahead of it. And that is all, and thank you.
We look forward to showing you.